continuous with one.
That is counter to every deed that has been presented to the town and the county.
It cites book and page numbers of the deeds. They recorded it, they've stamped it. The reason I bring it up now is this poses the other issue. Like we discussed before, at the zoning board, you had records, it's in your packet, where Barry Engineering testified to the zoning board with that information that they were continuous lots. And I know that you dispute that, and the town's not saying, and town council's not saying one way or the other. But that's the dilemma, is you have an engineering firm, and now you have a separate surveying firm that has surveyed the property, stamped it, and says that you don't own the property in between, and these two lots are now continuous. But that becomes a big problem, because if this survey stands and they're continuous, that changes a lot of things.
That's a huge if. And what I'm about to say is not intended to be disrespectful, but it will probably come out as being so. Had this information in front of you since August. And there was nothing I could do prior to getting this appointment tonight that was within my legal boundaries until the town takes a stand. Now someone goes and gets a new document and you get to sit on your hands again. That's not right. That's
not what happened. You were told exactly what action you could take inside your right. File an administrative appeal.
Zone 101 is all abutters have to be notified. We were not notified. The ripple of decisions after that is what put us here. That's on the town.
That is not. And that's, you're exactly correct. It's a ripple of events. Okay, you say you were not notified.
How can I address?
I'm not going to argue with you, but I want to explain something. I am, because I told you exactly what needed to happen. You went down, you met with zoning, you withdrew your application.
I did not withdraw, I postponed it.
You postponed it. So legal counsel's advice, that's what you wanted. Legal counsel's advice was an administrative appeal because you claimed you were not notified as an abutter. But the applicant says you aren't an abutter. The engineering firm says you're not an abutter, not the town. The town is not going to challenge them.
Look at that document again.
You can look at it. Sure.
It's their property line. The road is still right here. That still makes me an abutter. Whether I own that property or not, I am still an abutter.
Okay. Again,
this becomes not this board. Coming to this board is going back to the zoning board.
So the town makes a series of mistakes. And the answer is, I have to go pay to appeal all of the town mistakes. Zoning 101 is you must notify the abutters.
That's correct.
We weren't notified. So now we have to pay to fix respectfully your mistake?
It's not our mistake. It clearly says in the application that the applicant is responsible for providing the abutter list. Barry Engineering, which you have a copy of it in your cup, was not the town that produced that. It was Barry Engineering at the zoning board.
Brian, I can't go to Barry Engineering and appeal anything. I can't go to them and say, hey, 2 years ago, you effed up and we didn't get notified. And then the town made all these decisions. So you made all these plans and your client spent all this money. Legally, I can't do that. My only legal recourse is to come in here.
No, it isn't. I told you what it was. An administrative appeal through the zoning board.
I still don't have in writing from town's legal counsel any of that.
Town's legal counsel is not going to provide you anything in writing. They're not your attorney.
They're not supposed to be my attorney. They're supposed to be your attorney, and your attorney is supposed to say to me, these are your rights. This is what you have to go do. It still hasn't happened.
No, the attorney provides advice and guidance for this board. And that's the advice and guidance you got.
So
was that the board of selectmen?
Your stand collectively is that no one is going to put in writing what the course of events and recourse is supposed to be. But you put in writing everything else that we do as a town. Everything.
Well, in terms of putting in minutes of this meeting as a legal and publicly available document could be viewed as what we're seeing being put in writing. Would you accept that?
No, I don't accept that, Mr. Shea, because according to my attorney, until the town's attorney takes a stand and cites some case law that holds the town's position, then the town doesn't have a position, because case law in this instance supports my side. So I have asked repeatedly, could we take this off the record? I was told no. So I've come now for the 5th time in public, which puts me on record as showing some really ugly stuff for the town, to the town. And I still can't do anything because the town has not put in writing what their stand is or what the actions should be. We have an opinion that is being conveyed.
She wants a decision. She wants to stand straight of appeal. We've been on record 5 times. I've said administrative appeal. You want the answer that you want to get one way or the other. It's an administrative appeal. This board does not have the authority to appeal a zoning board decision.
This board has the authority to act on all of the things that happened after that that are illegal. Because prior to getting that yesterday, if I understand your timeline, prior to getting that yesterday, this group has had since August every piece of information that I have presented, and nothing has been done.
Including a piece of information that you highlighted from Barry Engineering, stating and testifying in a zoning board meeting that the lots are continuous. That continuous statement that we've had since the beginning supports the document that they just recorded. So the town has not had any other information or subsequent information.
The town has a lot of information. The town has information that there's an illegal dwelling on top of the garage. The town has information that the septic system is being used outside of the parameters of what it was designed for. The town has information that there's electricity running to a building that's not supposed to have it, that it wasn't permitted for. The town has done nothing about that. The town has done nothing about the fact that there's not a 911 address. The town has done nothing about the fact that the tax records and the tax cards downstairs are not properly recorded. There's a lot that the town can do that I put forward in this folder, and nothing has been done. Right now, you seem to be focused on a ZBA and whether or not I've done an appeal. That's the only thing. There's so much more in here than that one item. And I don't understand why we are so focused on one item. Everything else in here that I presented to you is erroneous. And it's all supposed to be enforced by the town. And while this board may not be allowed to go back and change something that ZBA said, this board does have the ability to hold each department accountable for what they do. This property owner went outside of the scope of what they were permitted to do. Not a single one of you has disputed that.
Well, I don't know what the zoning board decision was, but I think there's a difference between whether or not these lots are continuous or not. Because correct me if I'm wrong, but I understand that changes what they are allowed to do by auxiliary structures. Because from the beginning, you came and you met with us, you said that they ran septic, they ran electric under your property. But that seems to be the big thing that's in dispute. I mean,
that's the starting point of it, because that becomes the ripple effect.
But if they're
There's
continuous,
two different things. Yeah.
if they're continuous, I believe that changes things in itself. But again, we're going back and forth to, you wanted legal counsel involved. Since the first day we met, I called legal counsel, and legal counsel has not changed their position or advice to the Board of Selectmen. The place it needs to start is zoning. Because where this all started in the claims and in the paperwork is notification that you weren't notified to even be a part of the original discussions
That is
of
correct.
their project.
That is correct. And that new document doesn't change that outcome. And that new document doesn't change the rest of what's in here. They don't have a 911 address on a structure that's on a separate lot. That's illegal. That can be enforced by this town. They have finished space over a garage that was not permitted. That's illegal. This board can address that. If in fact that new document is correct, then some of my other things are now moot. But I would think in fairness, since you've taken since August to get me on this agenda, I should at least have a week to find out whether or not that document is valid.
You can have as much time as you want.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm being blindsided by that. Nobody has presented that.
I
to
can
me
show you
until
the,
today.
I can
Just
show you
came
the
in
recording
yesterday.
date.
And the 6 of one, half of the other,
Yeah,
Paul.
but you could still and look at that yourself and
Right.
have time.
And I have to
that.
go up to Belknap County offices and find out what happened. And I have to now go get a surveyor and I have to have another conversation with my attorney and
Yes.
on and on and on. But going to the deeds that are recorded and the paperwork that's available for over 100 years on that property, I'm inclined to think there's something wrong with that. Doesn't mean I'm right. Just means my inclination after multiple generations of families on that road, all believing the same thing that I brought to you. It seems odd that the new guy who's broken all the rules finally finds something different. Doesn't pass the sniff test for me.
Question, and I hope I don't jeopardize some legal rights somewhere, but
Don't we all?
what would you view as a reasonable settlement to satisfy you with all of these issues?
If absent the new document that we have,
Right. Let's pretend it's 5 minutes before the meeting instead.
right, absent that document, what I would have asked of the town is that we right as many of the wrongs as we can. To that end, a portion of it would mean removal of the finished stuff inside of the garage that's not supposed to be finished until such application and permit and everything else was done in the way that it's supposed to. Because his permit for that building very specifically says no finished space unless it comes back to get that permit. So I would ask that that be addressed. I would ask that the water and septic that run from the house out to the garage and then back to the house, I would have asked that they be removed because they were done post the CO. And there's no guarantee for safety of any rescue vehicle or equipment on that space. I don't know how deep it was. I don't know if it's sleeved. I don't know if proper casing was used. None of us know any of that. I would have asked that the electric line be above ground because you can't run your electricity through somebody else's property. So there would be a series of things, all which would be in the scope of reasonable. The place that I would then have to make some concessions is that the front lot where the main house is not sizable enough to perk for a septic system. So the leach field and so forth that are in the back lot, those lines would still have to run through. To that end, we could do a lifetime lease, 100-year lease, a purchase of easement rights as opposed to right-of-way rights. There are a lot of other things. I'm not going to ask somebody to take out their septic system after they've built the building, because then that means they have to take the building down too. But there would be some level of, for lack of another word, remediation that could become acceptable all the way around. At the end of the day, there are 3 things that are significant to me. One, prior to the new document, I don't feel that my family's property rights were respected or upheld. 2, it's good for Alton when new homeowners come in that help maintain or improve the face of Alton. That's good for all of us. Why would I want a shack 2, 3, 4 doors down from me? I don't. It's good for all of us when we as a community look good. Third, and perhaps most important in all of this, in the meetings that I've attended, there have been several changes to how we look at permit process and how we as a town entity make decisions about permits going through. If nothing else, one of the things that should be coming very clear and very evident to this group is that the process of allowing the person applying for the permit to identify the abutters, is for crap. Because this is what happens. At a minimum, I should have been notified, my family should have been notified, because our road would end at their two continuous or contiguous lots. If I am correct, that the right of way runs all the way to the next house, I'm even more earnest in my stance of saying somebody else needs to be looking at the list of abutters other than just the permit applicant. I don't like you. I'm not going to put your name on my permit. Somehow they got the names of the people on the other side of Route 11, but they didn't get our name. The street that they're building on is my family name. How do you not get that? I mean,
Do you know, as far as the garage itself, that's being used at this time as a dwelling or being used as
it's his
anything?
office. He goes in and out of it all day, every day. It's heated, it's air conditioned, it's got running water, it's got electricity, it's got timers on the lights. Furniture got delivered there.
So it would be a dispute of whether or not that is a continuous lot or
Absolutely.
not. So this is where it needs to go back to Berry Engineering and surveys to find out, and going back to this new document to find out whether or not that is a continuous lot. That's where it starts. That's where we need to go with this. To find out if that, because that would make a difference on a decision that was made at the time of the zoning. Because that's what zoning is, only as good as what the information they receive. They receive the information from engineers, they receive the information for what the building is supposed to be, the project, the setbacks, the state setbacks, and everything that's set. If it's a non-conforming property, the only way you go with a special exception is to make it less non-conforming and to
Correct.
tear it down in kind, to build it back. So if they met all those criteria, they were in their means to do so.
Correct.
So I think at this point, it's really imperative to look at the engineering and whether or not it really is or is not a continuous lot, because that's what matters.
That again is an excellent starting point, but again, it sheds light on the fact that we're putting a significant piece of the onus for due diligence on other people when it still comes back to this group to make decisions, whether it's this group or one of the subcommittees somewhere in the food chain, that nobody in the process looks at the deeds as part of permitting process. Makes no sense.
It does make sense. And we do it specifically because of the taxpayers, because of the town, because now you're talking about using a town employee to do deed research, which they're not trained or qualified for, and we're not insured for. So now they're going to put together an abutters list. So when something like this does happen, it all comes back to a lawsuit on the town.
So your stance then would be that, I'll use the buildings department for a moment, that their expertise is in septic systems.
No,
No.
Well, then why does somebody looking at a deed have to have an expertise in that? Still making a decision. The building.
well, the building department doesn't approve septic systems. The
They-
state of New
State
Hampshire
does.
does.
The state of New Hampshire does, but then it's incumbent on the building department to enforce what does and doesn't happen with that septic when it goes in.
No, it's not.
No,
it's not.
The state is responsible.
inspects
They
it.
inspect it.
They inspect the septic, but then it's the town that has to use that platform to make sure that nothing more than what it was designed for gets added to it. So now we're saying that this department isn't experts, and therefore that's why it's not part of the process. But this department, even though they're not experts, they're going to be part of the CO process. I'm just taking what.
Part of the
just-
application is on the person applying for the application for a special exception, variance, or whatever, or a building permit. You have to supply the town with all your information of deed, lot, tax map, everything that you have, what you plan on doing, your blueprints, what you're doing, and that comes in, and then that gets approved. Or if something has to be a special exception, that's when it goes to the board. Everyone's notified, but everyone's notified by the information you provide. The people,
So to that point, Paul, if I come to you and I say, here's my plans from the state that the state approved for my septic system, and it says I can have 2 bathrooms and it's not designed for a carburetor,
Garbage disposal.
disposal. It's not designed for that, and it's not designed for a washing machine.
Mhm.
And then I go over to my contractor and I say, when you put the kitchen in, make sure you put the garbage disposal in. And this closet we've decided to use for laundry, and put the washer and dryer in here. When the building inspector goes to do that home inspection to issue the CO, are you telling me they don't ever go back and look at?
yes, they do.
Okay, so that's part of my point, that if we're not gonna have somebody that's gonna check deeds and they're not specialized in deeds, why are we having a building inspector who's not specialized in septic being responsible for that piece of the CO? We can't have.
Yeah, I can tell you exactly how that is.
The sword cuts both ways on that instance.
It does not. Okay, when the state approves a septic system and the design goes in, it has special parameters. Let's use the same example. Our building inspector goes out and they review buildings based on architectural plans. They're not architects. They don't have that expertise.
Exactly.
But they're reviewing a plan. It's the same thing with the septic system. If the plan says no garbage disposal, you don't have to be an expert to say the plan says no garbage disposal and there's a garbage disposal in the sink. It's not the same thing. We're not talking about apples to apples.
Then why are we issuing a CO on a building that's only supposed to have 2 bathrooms and now has 3? Why are we issuing a CO on a building that's got a garbage disposal and had the garbage disposal at the point of the CO?
It's not necessarily the number of bathrooms, it depends on the usage of water and how much water is being used for a specific septic system. So that's usually based on number of bedrooms.
Correct.
That's usually how that works. It's not number of bathrooms. It's a number of how many people that are in the building that are using the water.
Correct.
So
And
that's where that, so it's, if it's a permit for 2 bedrooms, it can only be 2 bedrooms.
And the definition of a bedroom is that there has to be a closet in the room. So as long as I don't put a closet in the room, it's
That,
technically not.
that doesn't work.
It-
That's
it-
not
it-
necessarily how it works.
Agreed, but we all know that that's part of how it does happen.
Mhm.
And that's part reflected in tax records. So, using that example, my parents' home was designed as a 1-bedroom. When they finished the loft upstairs, my dad put a closet in. Exactly, Mr. Shane, the next time that we had tax assessment come around, he had to declare the house as a 2-bedroom because there's a closet in there. In our case, it didn't change the scope of what's going on with the septic because we oversized the tank and built for Armageddon and everything else. But it's how we're depending on people to be honest. And in this instance, prior to that document showing up, we have a whole bunch of dishonesty going on in here.
Mhm.
And it would appear so. Let me rephrase that. It would
Mhm.
appear that there's a tremendous amount of dishonesty here. And the town's response is we're not putting it in writing and go back to ZBA.
Yeah, because this sounds a lot like a hearing. And the applicant doesn't even have a chance to be present for anything either. Telling you, the reason why legal provided the advice that they did is this is the wrong venue. It's the wrong venue. You want to have a hearing, you're asking them to make a decision on
And we
one
can't.
side of documentation from 2019. That's why legal gave the advice that they gave.
But then again, I strongly suggest to go back to the engineering and surveying and to clarify whether it is a continuous lot or not. That's where I would start with that.
Does that change whether or not it's got a septic system in it though? If it's a continuous lot or not?
Well, the septic system is on one lot that services both of them, is my understanding.
No, the leach
her
field,
property
the leach
and-
field is on the separate lot.
Yeah, so I mean, it's one, there's one system that services the opposite side, yeah, because the shoreline, the house is on the shoreline and the septic is on the back lot, correct?
The tanks are on the front lot and the leach field is on the back lot. So yes, Mr. Mitchell, it does change the situation.
Oh, it does.
If they're continuous or not. There's a
That's
big
why
di-
I'm saying
there's a big
that's what
difference.
needs to be determined first.
Because,
See if that's correct information.
because according
Or not.
to the information she had presented originally, what the underlying issue, aside from some of the other stuff that's been talked about, is there's lines running underneath which she believes is her property, and they're saying it's his property.
But what I'm getting at is, this garage was built, there was no permit pulled for it to have a bathroom, to have, and it has all that stuff. So regardless whether it's got a lot, still shouldn't have that stuff, correct?
I don't know, because I've never been in the
I've
house.
never been in the house, that's what I'm asking.
Again,
But how do
no,
you-
no, again,
But
according
how do you
to,
go into it 3 years
according to
later?
the
and
zoning,
Rip it out.
there are criteria with the zoning for every special exception, and it's criteria for every variance. And the criteria have to be met, and there are conditions.
Correct.
If these conditions are changed after the fact, then that's shouldn't happen.
Correct.
I've read what you gave us, I'm just trying to see it from both sides of the fence right now and try to. figure out
Absolutely.
what- Because
Mhm.
on one side of this, yes, maybe. The sewer lines are on whatever, on whoever's property they're on, we'll leave it at that, but. And there was never a permit pulled to do all the work that's done, which we don't actually know.
There were permits pulled and there was a CO issue.
There was a. And that,
The permit to finish the upstairs of the garage was not pulled. There is no CO, separate CO on it. The permit for the
Like
garage.
you said,
very
this is going
clearly
towards a
says-
hearing, so
Right.
we really can't do that at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
Do that. In my opinion, and I don't know, I'm speaking for myself as a selectman, I would research a little more on the surveying to nail that down.
Now, if that goes through and kind of then come back to us afterwards, once. Is that how that
No,
works? I don't-
it would go to zoning.
If the hearing's successful and as far as the document, especially the fact that the property, if her property is continuous between their lots, that changes a lot of things.
Yes, it does.
But that opens up the whole thing. So now the entire zoning, this is where everything starts from there. Because if they're successful with the hearing, which is the decision she's looking for, one way or the other, then the zoning board can open up the entire thing again. Their whole entire decision, everything, because
that's
Well,
it-
back-
in this board can't do
because
that.
because
They've already made that decision.
because that means they've now in a
Decided that it was
formal
wrong.
hearing, they have misrepresented information
Right.
and as part of that application, it's either untruthful or
Okay.
inaccurate.
And. Okay. We thank you very much. Take it from there.
Do you want, Donna, do you want this document? You can have it. Okay.
Thank you, Don.
See them.
Okay, moving to new business, DPW, Parks and Recreation, Jones Field fence extension. Good evening.
We put together a memo here for the board. This is following up on the inspection that was done on the Jones Field Playground by Primex, and one of those recommendations for that process was in fact that the fence to be extended along the Merrimack River. Around
200.
measurement in there, will fence to be linked up so that that will be a continuous piece of fence that would run from the bridge all the way around to the other ball.
Around the edge of the river. Yep.
Yeah, there's one section there that, for whatever reason, hadn't been. So. Whitney and Kelly and basically
3 different vendors.
Met with everybody.
Met with all three.
Yep.
And they,
And you also met with Primex, or was that?
Primex did their own inspection.
yeah, we did that, coordinate, Kelly,
Kelly.
Other.
Ks and Cs. Kelly ended up coordinating that as far as doing the inspection there. And we have that, we've been working on the items to be taken care of there. Tomorrow morning, we'll final inspection and then provide a report back to Primex. So this is kind of one of those timely things that we feel appropriate, so we could report as to what the board is supportive of us going ahead and moving forward with this expenditure, which had not been actually in the budget.
Mhm.
Seeing the recommendation of the Parks and Rec director has indicated that she may have surplus funds at the end of the year that would be able to be utilized for the project.
Mhm.
So if not, we permission to withdraw the funds from CRF.
Seems like the estimates were all over the place.
They were.
Mm.
Yeah.
And again, this would just be for the chain link fence along
Yeah.
the river, nothing to do with any of the other, with the wood chips or anything else, that some of the recommendations that they made.
Yeah, we've
Primex,
already taken
Those are
care of.
separate.
That's already been taken care of.
Yeah,
and-
we had
and
actually
cutting
started
off
that
bolts
process
and-
last year.
Yep.
In preparatory side of things, we purchased the safety chips last year. and then
Okay,
we
I
were
wasn't sure if that was done. Okay.
Yeah, those have been installed. They've been working on the deficiencies that were flagged out.
Mhm.
New signage is
The
purchased.
new signage, yeah.
Signage has been installed down there as well. Care of the other safety items that were flagged out, so. Should be in good shape. Be able to report back to Primex that we're in condition. That'll take care of this playground area and then we'll move to the other playground areas in town. Type of upgrades. As well.
That's what I'm saying. It was all over the place.
They were all over.
Yeah, they range from, like I say, a little $4,600, almost $4,700 to $10,000, so.
Yeah.
um,
For the same thing.
Yeah.
for the same.
It's like saying that one
Same
came in at
type of-
6,700, the other one was 10,000.
Right,
They were all over the place.
So we'll probably take the low one.
Yeah.
And that's in the
that is the
recommendation.
recommendation. My father
Any-
would be disappointed if I didn't, wasn't a Scotsman and.
I'll make the motion to go with 125 and tank for the two. $92.
Where would you like to take it out of?
Taken out of the Jones Field CRF or the recreation operating budget, or
What was your recommendation? I'm sorry.
Probably to try to encumber that from the operating budget if it's left over and to utilize the CRF if that's not available.
Okay, so
How I would
we're
probably,
going- I think we should be able to encumber that. Or actually, we can probably just, I don't know when you're planning on doing it in the spring or whatever, but we might be able to just pay it before.
they had time to do it now, right?
They said if we got back to them and the ground didn't freeze too solid, they could.
I was reading that somewhere, yeah.
Yeah.
See what you can do, and if it gets done, if we can do it this year, then we'll pay it out of the operating budget. If not, we'll encumber
okay,
or figure it out. I don't think we're, right now, based on the numbers, I would think.
getting cold quick. So.
Okay, so
Out of
The operating,
the operating budget
budget.
or CRF, whichever.
Jones
whichever funds
Field,
are better.
Jones Field CRF, yeah.
Okay.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, default budget.
I'm gonna approach this just by discussing contractual difference items.
Yes,
Anything else?
that's what my plan was. If you see, if we go through the pages, like on page 2, you'll see notes on the right-hand
Mhm.
side that are typed in.
Yeah,
So
election law.
when you don't see any notes moving forward, the line item is remaining the same as last year. Just so you know, by starting, just for the public's sake and everybody else's, this default budget doesn't include any of the 10% approvals that were done mid-year. Does not include any COLA or merit increases, or one-time contracts. It's only, long-term contract obligations or election law issues or state law. Everything else you'll see, there's probably not even a handful of lines that actually change.
Mhm,
Most everything is
the
the same. So just going through each one, I will just say that administration budget didn't have any, because we also took out one-time purchases.
Mhm.
But so the administration budget is the same as last year. There was no increases. I mean, no carryovers, no removals.
Mhm.
Budget committee was the same as last year, no changes. Town clerk, town collector, again, same as last year, no changes. We get into our first changes under
Election.
elections and registration. The obvious increase is the fact that we have 4 elections this year. Versus last year, we didn't have that number of elections.
Mhm.
So you see that the supervisor's wages go up to accommodate the extra elections. Same thing with the moderator and part-time help for that.
Mhm.
The other thing is there's an increase in postage because of notices, signs and printing and advertising, all related to the additional elections. Okay. IT department, there is no increase or decrease. Legal, there is no increase. And then benefits, you get into federal law, FICA, then you have health and dental, federal law, New Hampshire retirement, state law, employee retirement for group 1, the state law, life disability, as policy, 457 policy, and the other New Hampshire retirement is fire. So fire and police are listed out, even though they're both group 2, New Hampshire retirement. Planning department is the same. Building department has no changes. Assessing department has no changes. Actually, I take that back. Assessing department on the second page.
Yes, I see it.
It says
Encumbrances.
removed 2022. That was an encumbrance from last year. So that was a one-time encumbrance. So
That was
that's been removed. Going into grounds and maintenance, again, there's 16,416 removed. And that is because it was a 2022 encumbrance for grounds and maintenance on, I believe that was new furnaces that we encumbered on. The cemetery department, there is no changes from last year. Then you get to insurances. There's an increase for unemployment compensation, workers' compensation, and property liability, and those fall under RSA 4013, which is the insurances that we're required to carry. Audio visual remains the same. Police department, there's another removal. There's $11,000 removed, because one of them was a one-time employee buyout. So that doesn't carry over. Fire department, I didn't see. Fire department doesn't have any changes. It just remains the same.
Same, same.
Yep. Emergency management remains the same. Public works remains the same. Street lighting remains the same. Solid waste remains the same. Hazardous waste remains the same. Welfare remains the same. Recreation Department remains the same. Library remains the same. Gillum Museum remains the same. Patriotic Services remains the same. Conservation Commission remains the same. And short-term remains the same. So those were the only, like I said, there's very few changes. I don't know if there's any discussion about any of those changes.
So the amount, the exact amount of the change is what? Looking at or over 200,
There's
200,000.
you have 285. 351. So, run that real quick.
Mhm.
Sure.
Yeah.
It also has a minus column.
Yep, and that's all of what we just went through.
Yes.
And the not the encumbrances, but. Those are removals, yeah, but I'm talking about the ones that were actually. An increase. 351.
No, that's not the, I'm
I
sorry.
was gonna say,
That's why I just did the math, because
Mhm.
so what it is the 285,
Mhm.
351 is the increase
That's
amount.
That's right.
That's
what I'm
the
saying.
increase, but the 56 is a decrease, so the total difference is the 229.
229 is the total.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I rounded it off at 200,000.
I'm sorry,
229,
229, 257.
257.
So that would be the net increase in the default from last year's budget.
Okay, thank you.
It's 229,257. I did that for the public.
Yeah,
So they would
yeah,
hear
well,
that.
thank, that's why I asked. Yeah. Thank you.
Default budget for 2024 as presented with a net increase of $229,257.
We have a second?
For the warrant. 29 million.
Okay,
The actual,
yes.
not just the difference.
Not just the difference, but disclose the whole amount.
Oh, you
of the
Just because it has to go on the warrant that way, so I think it'd be better to have that
whole
motion.
amount, yes. Not just the increase, but the actual amount.
Mhm.
Mr. Chairman, I amend my motion to also include the information that the total 2024 default budget would be in the amount of $9,521,748.
Have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Preliminary tax rate.
Hey, board members, so in front of you, you got the DRA forms, for the tax rate breakdown. On the cover page, it shows you municipal, county, local education, state education. So the preliminary tax rate as of right now, based on these figures and numbers in our evaluation, would be $13.18. I provided you with some more backup information that we can talk about, not only for the benefit of the board, but the benefit of the public. So first of all, I just want to talk about the overall increase in the tax rate is a $1.81. But I want to make sure it's clear on what the breakdown is. So the municipal portion that we have control over, with this is 53 cents increase. We went from $3.91 last year to $4.44. That is a 53-cent increase. The the state portion, or excuse me, county portion.
County portion.
Sorry, the second one, there was a block over it. The county portion went up 45 cents. Local education went up another 34 cents and state education went up 49 cents. So I think it's important just to look at that total breakdown and what portion we have control over locally, in proportion to state and county increases. As you can see, most everything is right around the 45 to 50 cent mark. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about a little bit is the breakout, the makeup of the tax rate and why some of the changes came in. I think it's important, obviously for the public to hear about a lot of stuff that we talk about that maybe they miss along the year. So one of the big things that changed with our tax rate is our estimated revenues. Revenues plays a big part in how we're offsetting our taxable amount or tax base. One of the big things is we received in 2022, we had a town auction in 2021 where we sold a bunch of property, totaling approximately $190,000. We had to hold that by law, that money for a year, and then it was released back in and it comes in as a revenue. So we had $190,000 worth of property sales that came in as revenue that did not carry over. It's not a regular revenue for us. That's just one part of it. Also in 2022, we received an ARPA payment from the federal government, $278,000. That 278,000. That 278,000 also came in as revenue, which we did not get again. The other thing is the state provided an additional $165,700 in additional highway block grant. And we also got $106,960 in bridge aid. It was above and beyond, that was passed on to local communities. These are all considered revenues that they're one-time revenues that we don't normally carry in our estimated revenues because we can't expect to get that again from the state or from the federal government.
That would have been 600,000.
Yes, totaling, putting all that over, together. Yeah, our deficiency in revenues total is almost 938,994. So you're talking about just shy of $1 million in revenue, to offset in 2022, 23 moving forward. And then also we had an increase in the overlay to cover a few of our abatement cases there. You might recognize those two properties from our abatement cases that those are ongoing. So they're included because it was a settlement. They were included in the overlay. So we went from 20,000 to 80,000. So there's 60 grand in the overlay. So that's really some background information I just wanted the board and the general public to have. The other thing I included just for general purpose for anybody that wanted to look at it or whatnot, but we keep an approved tax rate history breakdown and finance goes back all the way to 2001 to current. And what I did is I just wanted to take a look at the fluctuation in the tax rate and where we stand today as to where we stood back then. And just putting this out and just looking at just 2021 to 24 or 2004, I'm sorry, 2001 to 2004, we fluctuated from $14.78 on our tax rate to $16.99. The tax rate did jump down, but there was some buy downs. You can see the fund balance applied in the third column. And you can see 1 year, there's almost $500,000 to buy down. And it jumped down, but then it started to rapidly increase again. And we climbed, we were back up to 1368 by 2012. And then it went from 1368. Again, we went all the way up to 1415. And then we went back down into the 12s. In 2020, we were at 1395 again. At today's rate, if we said it's gonna be 1318, which is still an overall decrease. I will say that one of the things that you really need to look at, and one of the things that obviously we want to talk about tonight is using the fund balance to buy anything down. I will tell you that you look at the spring between 2022, and again, I really want to stress this for the general public as well. In 2022, our tax rate went to 1137, which is great. But if you look at the applied balance, at that time, we paid down $704,000, 704,900, almost $705,000 out of the general fund or the fund balance to buy it down. This is why we're partly in the situation that we're in right now. Because when you buy down something that is on the operating budget or anything that's a warrant or a continuous warrant article like a CRF, it's a boomerang effect. Because if you pay down $700,000, that's going to reoccur the next year. Now you're not only incurring the increase, but you have to pay that $705,000 back again. You're not paying it back. It just carries forward. Because if it's not a one-time purchase, it carries forward. So it really kind of gives the taxpayers a false sense when you buy the tax rate down, because you may realistically, I don't want to say double it, but you know, it's going to be that much more of a jump or a hike for the following year. So that's just a concern. I mean, I'm going to have some recommendations when we look at warrant articles, one-time warrant articles, to pay them down out of the fund balance, because our overall cost of warrant articles is, you know, obviously part of our tax rate and our tax base. So we will have some, there's not going to be a lot, but there are some one-time warrant articles that we can buy down with the fund balance that will offset things moving forward. But right now, I mean, it's up to the board. My recommendation wouldn't be that we try to do anything with it right now, just moving forward. Because I think that $705,000 just created a big jump
For this year.
for this year.
Yep. And the only thing that we can affect would be the municipal municipal and with the 53 cents
Yes.
addition. Everything else is out of our control.
Oh, and one more important part to that is that we did the rough calculations on buying down that rate. From the municipal side of things, it takes almost $22,000 to buy down 1 penny. So if you're we're talking about buying something down to maneuver that, you're talking in the $300,000-400,000 range. To even make it, you know, to come at it like that. I just want to put that in perspective. You know, it'd be one thing if we could buy it down with $100,000. But when you're talking that it takes over $22,000 to sway that amount, a penny.
That's significant.
Of the rough calculation, again, I don't want to say this is right to the penny, but finance manager ran some calculations just so we had some rough examples to put it in perspective. So $1.81 increase on the tax rate, that's everything, not just the town. That's the whole tax rate increase. Roughly, it's about $157 a year on a $300,000 house. To put it more in perspective for the resident or whatnot, if they're trying to look at it compared to their assessment and where they're at.
Questions?
Enough to ruin your night.
What's that?
You said it's enough to ruin your nights.
Yes. But going back to the previous years, going all the way down to. Never realized that back in 2004, it was almost $17 per thousand. That's incredible. Point.
Yes, we need to send out the.
Right. Buyouts in any way are not an option here.
Yeah. Buying it down, paying it down.
Paying it down, that's, I mean,
I
pay it
mean,
down.
it's always an option.
But I
the board can
know,
do it.
but taking that kind of 22,000 for every penny.
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions? All right, do we have a motion to accept the new tax rate as presented?
What you can do, like I said, if you want to use the fund balance to buy down the municipal tax effort, the tax effort is that 9,718,287. That's our tax effort. Discounting everything else, but like I said, in order to move that $4.44 a penny, it's 22. Based on the last few days before the meeting and spending several hours in finance department running scenarios. Really, the overall recommendation from the finance manager, myself, and the deputy finance manager is that buying down the tax effort right now is going to put us in a worse position next year because, we know that with the inflation rates and things that are happening over these years, we're making every effort to minimize the operating budget for 2024. But if you buy down some of the tax effort that's reoccurring this year, it's just gonna double down in 2024. And we could look at bigger,
tax
the
rate.
recommendation is we're gonna end up with a bigger tax hike.
So if we
Next
buy
year.
this down this year, we're gonna pay for it on the other end.
Yes, because
Yeah.
the only time the
Exactly.
only time you can buy, you buy something that's not gonna be as a reoccurring expense. And if you pay down the operating budget usually goes up with inflation anyway, so it's gonna be reoccurring. Same thing with any of the warrant articles. So almost every warrant article we have, there's very few, but most of them are reoccurring CIP recommendations and they go into CRFs.
Mhm.
So say you buy down 500,000 or 600, see that 705 that they bought down in 22 were all warrant articles. But the problem is they all reoccurred the following year because they were CIP warrant articles that went into the CRFs. So you know how every year, highway or fires putting in, yeah.
Looking for avenues here.
Yeah, no,
Looking for
I'm
avenues.
just saying, and again, I talk a lot for the benefit of the people too, because I know that we have these discussions and stuff. I just want to make sure that when we're having these discussions and people are watching at home, that we're trying to provide them with as much
As much
background information as I
Information
can.
as possible, absolutely.
Because don't get me wrong, our fund balance is healthy. On this paperwork, it even has our current fund balance, and our current fund balance on the last page, 404, is $4,024,052. So recommended maximum amount from DRA is 17%. And we were currently at 13%.
13%.
We've almost reached the maximum retention on the fund.
You
balance.
almost got too much.
Yeah. So, I mean, we still got a little ways to go. I mean, we can still go, 1.1 million to get to the 17, but we are healthy. We're healthier than we've ever been when it comes to the fund balance too. So if we could find a way that it's not going to hurt us moving forward, all means, I'd recommend,
Yeah, so there's no other
you know, 500,000
recommendations.
or more to put down. And I am gonna recommend any of the one-time warrant articles when we come forward. I'm putting those recommendations together for our next meeting,
Our
so
next
we can
meeting.
talk about warrant articles. But I will have recommendations for you, to fund certain articles that are not reoccurring and possibly a few other ones to help with things.
Brian, if at all possible, when you finish that evaluation of the warrant articles, would you forward them to us prior to the meeting so we have a little bit of time to
Sure.
chop them up?
Yeah, hopefully, maybe I'll be able to get them to you a week ahead of time.
Thank you.
We go with 2 weeks right now. It'll probably
That
be
helps.
because I got to get them back from legal too.
Right.
That's the only thing. It's not me. It's just waiting for them to come back from legal and stuff. So.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, in view of the lack of appealing alternatives, I move that we approve the 2023 tax rate and the amount of $13.18.
You have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I
Uh-huh.
made a mistake when we moved forward. Can we back up to default budget? Because I skipped right over the water department's default budget. I did the operating, but I never did the water
Oh.
department was right after it, and I skipped right over it.
Because I didn't even have it on here.
No, it was just default, but it was
Yeah.
attached to the back of the
Okay.
regular one. I apologize. I will tell you, there are no contractual agreements and no changes to the water department whatsoever, but we still need to vote on it to the budget committee. So the water department is right after the town
No, I got it.
operating. Oh, you got it?
Yep, yep,
Okay.
yep,
All right,
yep.
so. I just assumed you're finished and moved on. I
Mhm.
apologize.
Sorry, that's all right.
That's it. So there are no
Okay,
notes.
there's no, do we have a motion for the water department approval?
And Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the water department default budget 2024 in the amount of $538,475.
We have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Old business. Prosecutors 2024 contract.
Mr. Chairman, this is, we've had a couple of different discussions about the renewal of the police prosecutor's contract.
Mhm.
There was, some discussions because, with the changes in state law, the, police department prosecutor has to bear the beginning of felony cases now. There was a law that was initiated called Felonies First, where felony prosecutions fell to the county attorney's office right from the onset. They're now retracting or modifying that so that police prosecutors are now going to have to take on felonies through arraignment now. We did do that in the past, but they haven't done it for many years with this new law. Now they're finding that, you know, Felonies First puts a clock on it, and I don't think that at the county level, they're struggling with manpower and hiring as well. I just don't think they can keep up with the time frame. So they're changing that law moving forward into 2024. What that does is it increases all of our felony cases, which we, you know, without quoting exact numbers currently, because I don't have that information right now, but also the county attorney and in their office. But arraignment before it gets bound over the grand jury will be handled at the district court level, and the district court level is the police prosecutors. So with that said, there was an increase that was talked about in the budget and brought up. It brought a little over a $4,000 increase to the prosecutor's contract for 24, which brings it to an even under the compensation of it. The changes to it is the $5,000 month.
Changes it to
$5,000 a month?
a month
It changes to $5,000 a month.
from 4,000.
No, it's a little, the whole increase of the contract is a little over 1,000 for the year.
For
I'm
the
sorry.
year.
I'm sorry, but he's
Oh, all
compensated
right.
monthly at $5,000. I apologize. I didn't mean to,
Yeah.
I didn't mean to say that. No, 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 no,
Alrighty then.
no,
That was confusing. Okay.
I apologize. I didn't mean to say it that way. No, I'm saying the overall increase, I'm actually looking right now on the default, because I can probably tell you exactly what it is. Off the top of my head, it was, 5,000 a month. 69.
Yeah.
Let me do some quick.
Yeah, it is.
I think so.
Have to use my calculator. So the increase is $5,250 for the year.
For the year,
$5,250.
That's better than $5,000.
Yeah,
a month.
I didn't mean it that way. Yeah, the way the
$5,250.
contract is written, it's a it's a monthly payment every month. And that compensation rate is 5,000 a month. For a total of $60,000. Current, just looking back at the default, we're at 54,750. That's where I came up with the $5,250. That was painful.
Yeah, that was the
Sorry.
increase for the year.
Yeah, increase for the year. The normal increase of every year prior without this law change was a 2% cap on coal, a 2%.
Mhm.
So he would have got 2% on top of that. So the increase on top of it isn't, that's why I said it's a little over.
Okay. I would clarify that.
But his contract only is good through December 31st. That's why I wanted to get it to you ahead of time so that we
I'll make
have.
a motion that Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we accept the attorney's contract as written
With the increase.
with the increase. Yeah, I'm not gonna get numbers.
That's right.
Okay, do we have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, selectmen reports. Richard.
All right, the police operations have continued to go smoothly. Not sure when the next one is. I don't believe we hold them through the winter months nearly as often, but when I get a date from Ms. Silk, I will let everyone know. Committee has come back and
Okay.
been able to go through the entire town operating budget. And then good. I think they've been doing a good job.
Very good. Nick. Hey,
Nothing.
nothing at this time, and I have nothing at this time. Okay, town administrator report.
Well, I have more than enough.
Yeah, I see that. I see that.
All right, so the first thing in your book, there was a memo from, and this is informational. So I got a memo from Jennifer Collins, our town clerk, town tax collector, about, if you recall back, we approved the purchase of the voting machines.
Mhm.
So in that purchase, there was a printer. Included in it.
Mhm.
Couldn't find out the printer aspect of it had not been approved yet, not from us, but from the state. Except the scanner portion was. Jen had opted to change out the printer for the scanner, and it did not change the amount at all. So the approved amount was still the $8,000. But as the memo says, the money does not change. It's just, we wanted to make the board aware that they had approved a printer and
Not a
we had to,
And not a scanner.
and not the scanner. So that change has been made, and as long as nobody has any problems with that, we have not executed the contract, still at legal, but I wanted to make sure the board was aware and didn't have any issues with that. So as long as the
Fine.
consensus of the board is that we can still move forward with the purchase.
I'm fine.
No.
I don't know if any,
I'm
the
good.
rest of you,
Okay. All right, we'll
Okay.
move on to the next one. I also received an email from the Public Works Director. And this one was just to get approval and authority. He had an offer and it was approached by the dirt doctors to haul off excess wood chips. So we have piles and piles of wood chips because we allow businesses, companies to dump.
Mhm.
And then we made them accessible to the public, to residents.
Right.
And businesses at free of charge, as long as they haul them. Problem is we can't allow them to dump anymore because we're overrun with them right now. They didn't cost us anything, but they're costing us space right now. Dirt Doctors offered to take them and clean up. But they'll bear the cost of all the transportation and haul off the excess ones and clean it up before winter with their equipment.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's
Absolutely.
no
Right.
price involved. It's just a matter of, it's kind of was a gray area where the town didn't pay for them. That we're just allowing them to dump on property, but technically they're still on our property. They're possession of the town, but
Right.
they really don't have a monetary value right now because we didn't expend any town funds or tax dollars. They've just been dumped there
Mhm.
by properties. But at this point, it's the recommendation of the Public Works Director that we get some of this cleaned up and out of the way
Just
before
gonna
winter.
pile up next year.
Yeah, it is.
It's
Yeah,
time
it's
to
gonna
get-
come
time
right
to get rid
back.
of it.
It's not like we're gonna lose out.
Time to get rid of it. That works.
So if you guys, the consensus of the board is we're all set with that,
Yeah.
Yep.
then the Public Works Director can move forward with that.
Yes.
Next one is on the table too. You have if you recall, the Conservation Commission came in, did a presentation on the purchase of the Freeze property. Or at least the 99 acres that are in the town of Alton.
Mhm.
It's the Mount Bet project. The only thing is the town was in favor of it. I should say the board wasn't in favor of it. It was the consensus. What I found is when they presented us with the warranty deed, I talked to legal. And we only took a consensus that night, but they're asking me to sign on behalf of the town, the deed, because the town owns it, not the Conservation Commission.
Right.
So between conversations with town council, he's good with the warranty deed. But the board, I need to have an official vote from the board if they want to support the project. That they agree and authorize me to sign on behalf of the town on the warranty deed.
Okay.
This warranty deed has been reviewed. He said, as long as the board is good with it and the board authorizes me to sign, he sees no legal issues with
Nothing has
the
changed.
deed.
Right.
But when we originally heard it, we were it was conservation making the proposal.
Mhm.
So myself and I didn't really think to have the board hold an official vote because they were having a public hearing and it sounded like they were making the arrangements and taking the money out of their fund. They're authorized, but I didn't realize when it came back that I was going to be required or the town was going to be required to sign the deed.
Mhm.
So that's why it's coming back in front of you tonight. See if you're okay with.
So
They,
nothing has changed.
nothing has changed.
Yeah,
The
okay.
proposal is the same. They had their public hearing.
Yep.
They had no negative input from the general public. The board moved forward, authorized the purchase under the original
remember, yep,
conditions.
yep.
And they took it out of the conservation fund. But now to fully execute and close,
You gotta be able.
I have to be able to sign on behalf of the town for the warranty deed. And that is a copy of the original
Yep.
or the deed that's going to be signed. So-
All right, do we have a motion then to accept the warranty deed? And have the town administrator sign for it?
Make a motion that we have the warranty. Town administrator.
We have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, one last thing I have, if you see in front of you on the table, there's a copy of the EMS budget, ambulance revolving fund. So, I'm gonna propose a change to the board. I just wanted to let you know, this is the revolving fund. So this isn't a budget that goes to budget committee. So the stuff, this null and void, this does not have to go back to budget committee or anything. This is funded from the revolving account.
Okay.
This was brought to me by the interim fire chief and the captain. They recently had a meeting with Lakes Region Fire Dispatch.
Mhm.
And they increased their fees by a percentage this year. And there was a difference, I guess it was budgeted as the same rate as last year originally. So if you see on the right, I got an arrow up with the increase. The increase overall is $11,014.
Wow.
Yeah, normally this would be, well, they split this with the fire too. So partial, there's a dispatch fee on the fire side of things and then on the EMS. But they're gonna increase the 11,000 on the 14 on the EMS side based on all those recent call volumes that we've looked at.
Right, so they can
EMS
pay it
is-
out of the ambulance revolving fund?
Well, that and are primarily probably 65 to 70% of our calls are all EMS,
Right.
not fire. So because this is the revolving fund, this approval only needs to go to the board to change this. Because again, it's just like the solid waste revolving recycling account. This doesn't go to, this doesn't affect the operating budget for the warrant.
Right.
Okay.
Or through taxation, because it's self-funded from the ambulance revolving account.
So you need a motion to.
Just a motion to, yeah, if
To accept
To
everybody's good.
accept the increase?
The increase of
increase.
$11,014. $14.
The motion?
That'll be my motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye.
Good. And with that, I am done.
Okay. So. Okay, approval of the minutes.
Make a motion to approve the October 10th, 2023 public session.
You have a second? All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Okay, wait a minute. It's two. Why is that? Is that a typo on the second one?
Which one are you talking about?
October 10th, 2023 public session, there's two of them. That's non-public.
It's non-
Yes,
It's non-
I'm sorry, yeah, that's
That's
non-pub.
non.
Okay.
And then the non-pub on October 10th, we didn't seal anything, so you don't have to unseal anything, everything's.
Everything's.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not,
We can just approve that.
just approve the minutes as.
I'll make a
As-
motion to approve the October 10th, 2023. Non-public session with a date change. I mean, with a wording change on non-public instead of public.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 10.
Oh,
Non-public. Now we're going to October 18th.
yeah, those aren't, that isn't.
It was on the, I guess it doesn't matter because it's on that. It's not on the agenda. I'm sorry. So we don't need to do that.
Oh, no, these
Okay.
these have to stay the same.
Yeah.
So you were talking about the agenda. work.
Correct,
Okay,
yes.
yeah. Okay.
So the next one is the October 18th, 2023,
Excuse me.
non-pub. This is non-public session, but this is October minutes. Oh, was that the non? This is non-public, yeah.
October 18th, I don't think
No.
you were here, were you, Paul?
No, but that's one of the things I have to recuse myself from this, but if you look at the where it has everybody labeled and named or who was here and who was present, you wouldn't have had a quorum.
So is that supposed to be the 20?
That's why I'm looking, something's wrong here. I've got in the minutes, the October 18, 2023 minutes, right, and the next one would be October. Not.
I think there's a date. The date is corrected on the second one. Yeah, this is 2024. I mean, October 24th, not the 18th.
No,
I'm
okay,
sorry.
that's right, so that's
That's right.
wrong.
Sorry.
Okay,
So
that's-
that needs to be amended.
That needs to be amended, and if you look at, I was excused, the vice chairman was here. Andrew Morse was here, then it says Nicholas Bonapane wasn't here, and I know he wasn't here, then it says Richard Shea was excused, they wouldn't have had a quorum. So
Pretty sure it was here.
Richard Shea was here,
Richard was.
In spirit, anyhow.
Actually, they were all.
okay, so that has to be changed.
One second.
Or we have,
So we can make a motion to that too.
yep, make a motion. Have
As amended.
a second?
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye. All right. Okay. October 24th, 2023, non-pub. Change on here.
So. all
We're
of
gonna
these- all
seal
of
2
these-
and 3,
All of them are sealed.
all of them, okay,
Yeah, until one is resolved.
right.
Okay, yep.
Make a motion to accept the October 24th, 2023 non-public, leaving everything sealed. This time,
2024.
24,
I'm sorry, yeah,
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
sorry for that.
Approval of the consent agenda.
One, just want to point out
Mhm.
on the agenda, just because it's something new that you're gonna start seeing on a regular basis, because it's based on the short-term rental.
Mhm.
So that last item, number 4.
Mhm.
We usually do waiver of liability for new constructions, like in the agenda item, and people come in and talk about it because they want to request a building permit.
Mhm.
Or with the short-term rentals, these are all pre-existing homes now.
Right.
So they're already built. They're not asking for that, but they have to have a waiver of liability on file as part of the permit process
Okay.
that we approved. This is the first one that we're seeing now.
Mhm.
There's gonna be some coming pretty regularly now.
Okay.
But this is, that's why it says private road STR, short-term rental.
Yep.
We tried to put as much information on there so you knew it was a pre-existing 3-bedroom house.
Good.
On Wentworth Way.
We have a motion to accept the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second,
Second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No appointments. No appointments, so go right into public input for 5 minutes.
Lauren Cobb. I don't know if you saw today's paper, but there's something really interesting about this headline. Court ruling okayed, Life Cove rental is grandfathered, upheld in Meredith.
What is it again?
It's in today's paper. I got an extra set for you.
Okay.
It's pretty interesting because board and the court agreed that people have been using their property for short-term rentals are now grandfathered. And like when you people put in these new ordinances, you're taking away that grandfathering. So it's pretty interesting. I think this is gonna have a big impact on the what we've done in this state and being pushed by a lot of towns now that, and it's
Yeah.
true, they have been grandfathered. How do you now come in and say, oh yeah, we're gonna add this on to you?
Mhm.
When you've been doing it for years on you. That's pretty interesting,
That is interesting. I haven't seen that.
you know? I noticed the fire department study. Can you tell me how much that was cost about?
$35,000.
How much?
35,000, I believe.
Yes, that's right.
35,000?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I noticed, the highway department is still advertising for 3 employees. He's still short 3 employees. So is that gonna impact our snow plowing ability this winter?
I know we're actively working on it. They actually have some, but yes, it's gonna make things difficult. But we were originally down 4. We at least were able to satisfy 1 here recently, and I think we're working on possibly a few more.
Oh,
they're cultivating.
I know you did a 10% across the board increase for all the employees in town. Gonna reconsider perhaps having a sliding scale like the school board did for the teachers, where the lower echelon gets a 25% increase and then it tapers down as the higher employees. And we're not gonna do another 10% increase, are we, to get 3 more employees? right?
No,
No.
no.
Okay, so are we gonna try to address that? Pardon?
We filled the entire,
Oh, well, we gotta have,
Gotta
Yeah.
have
we
it.
gotta
No,
do
I-
better than this. We're gonna have 3
Right.
short.
yeah, we did
Mhm.
fill the entire police department. They were down 3 positions
You
and
know,
they've
3
brought in
more
3 certified police officers since then.
Coming up slowly.
It's just, I think, Lauren, what's happening is everywhere around us is just gobbling up all.
Yeah,
And we've actually
can't
brought
get
it up to what was, I don't even think we've surpassed what the other towns are, but we're at least in the ballpark of getting people to come in, so they're starting to come in now.
Mhm.
So hopefully
Some
we can fill them
incentive.
before winter, because you're,
Some sort of incentive for people to come in and fill
Right.
these positions.
that's a concern, really. And my last thing is, I came to the board about the building inspector not viewing because of the clean water solution.
Mhm.
You didn't address it tonight. Is that gonna be not addressed or what?
So we pulled the regulations that was assigned and approved where you guys were in there. And there's nothing about clean solutions in there.
Nothing in the minutes?
No, in the order, in the
Didn't see it.
ordinance, the
Nothing
health,
in the ordinance.
under the health ordinance that was signed back then, it was amended when you guys were, when you were in office. And then we pulled a copy of it and went through everything, but there's no stipulations in there about a clean solutions tank or anything. So I can, before you, if you want, before you leave today, I can give you a copy of it and then we can look at it further. But the stuff that you were referencing, there might have been discussion about it, but nothing made it into the ordinance on file, on record.
Well, I guess there's a lesson to learn on that one.
Well,
That,
I did,
guess we didn't
I mean,
check up to make
I
sure
pulled
it
it for the
was-
chairman and the other board members so that we could look at, I mean, to examine what to do with it, but it all reverts back to the state standard.
There's nothing in there.
shocking because the board, well, I guess that's a lesson to learn,
Mhm.
that if you say something here tonight, it doesn't mean it gets done unless you check up on it.
Mhm.
That's the lesson from this,
Mhm.
because that board was adamant that we were gonna put in that. So if it wasn't put in,
How long ago was that?
be 12, 15 years ago, the Board of Health, we used to
Mhm.
meet as a Board of Health. We'd recess, selectmen, and go to the Board of Health. That was put in. So if it wasn't put in an ordinance, then somebody didn't follow through and do the paperwork to put it in. Talked to other members on that board at that time, and that was the intent of that board. So maybe there's a good lesson here to learn.
Yeah.
That if you don't check up to make sure that what you want done is put in paperwork and the ordinances. And it's strange too, because we had somebody come in about 3 weeks after we talked about this and supposedly put this in, ask for a waiver. So somebody wasn't doing their job between what we wanted as a board to have happen, and what was put in there. That's a shocker, but that's a lesson to learn there, evidently.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely.
I guess perhaps maybe ought to have to do a petition article then this year to make sure that that goes in. Wouldn't you agree that we should protect the lake?
Absolutely.
possibly
Yeah,
can.
Absolutely.
Or you people could do that now. You could put in that you want that clean solution part put
I
in.
think you'd have to do it under the Board of Health, though.
Yeah.
We're operating as a
Yeah.
Board of Selectmen right now.
That's right. So you could put it in and make sure the paperwork is done. Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else?
William French, Trask Side Road. reference to what was just being discussed, it always seems like the best chance to affect change is at the local level. And as people who live on the lake have a real investment in their homes, only as long as the lake is pristine. That lake has always had the reputation of being one of the lakes around, and I know they have great measures. If people lose a machine in the lake, they have to get it out rather quickly or they get fined horribly. But it seems to me at the local level, you have more control over septic issues and make sure that the septic system, especially along the lake, are even more stringent than what the state requiring, because the lake is a real asset to the town in terms of the tax revenue. And it's all those people that have the homes along the lake, many of them not like my husband, who is Hampshire native. Many of them are elsewhere out of the states, but I think if they knew that there was something locally being done, like maybe a stricter oversight on the septic issues along the lake, they would be more inclined to see what was going on along in the building that's going up everywhere along the lake. And maybe something like just an article in the paper when you do get this policy in place to make sure that septic system along the lake, especially sound, just an article to let them know, then they would be helpful. Sure that the properties that are coming up around them follow well. Take on that. My other matter that I came here for, last year I came here requesting Alton Swap Shop, affectionately called the Alton Mall by many of the local citizens. As you drive around this area, you see the piles on people's lawns free. Really indicates that the people in the town continue to want items to be put, not dumped. Swap Shop has been a source of community pride for a long time now. I think I've mentioned last year that many of us, there was a cadre of people that would try to keep it tidy when we went there. There was one guy that used to come in and organize all the books. There is a lot of community spirit involved in that Swap Shop. And right now, it's particularly needed with what's going on with the inflation that's just ravaging household budgets. Something that could be done to really give people a sense of community pride again. Really should be open. And I'm going to try to get this on as a warrant item. It didn't do me any good to come and speak last year. And I think we just need to have numbers of people. Subject. Something, there's talk, well, this woman was injured. Well, anyone who goes to any place, life is not risk-free. You're going to you can get injured anywhere. You can fall in your own front yard. That's not a reason to shut down a community. Depended upon and really made a lot of lives a lot more pleasant. The other thing is, town is actually saving money by not having decent items dumped into the hopper that then you have to pay for. Those items used to go out of there. I would see people taking the patio sets, home furniture, things that they could use. Really makes a lot of sense to have that swap shop, and all the other communities still have continued their swap shops even after COVID, whatever that was. I believe also that many retired individuals help. If that's the argument that they have used in the past, that they can't get anyone to oversee swap shop, I think people would be willing to give, cover certain shifts. I'm gonna pursue that.
The insurance company won't.
Project.
The insurance company won't insure it. That's
What's
the
that?
problem. The insurance company, Primex, came back and said they will not insure it the way it is. We need to build a building. We have to staff it.
What's
If
wrong
they're
with the building that we had originally?
It was-
before they
it's a-
decided that was
It's a Connex. Primex decided it was unsafe. They're our property liability insurance company.
They should have, if you can build that building, what do we need to do to make that building safe?
You can't use the Conex box. We have to build a whole new building.
You have to build a brand new building?
The insurance company won't do it. I mean, we did have the injury. You're right. We got sued. Now they've come back with standards. I mean, that's the way, unfortunately, that's the
So
way
what
the
are
world
the
works.
standards?
But I can't discuss them right now. We're here, but Primex came back and said you cannot reopen that in the Conex box. So we have to make
Typical
changes, but
insurance company.
it will take a lot
Yeah,
longer
no,
than
it
the
makes-
5 minutes
It's an
for
insurance
public input. Yeah, insurance is the problem. It's not the town.
Well, I feel that that was a treasure for this town. It meant a lot to people. I used to see people coming in there, the Bob Hutt people would come to get a frying pan to cook their fish. People from all walks of life, the children, elderly people come and get puzzles.
Mhm.
It's really a shame to just have stuff trashed when you clearly see that the residents are leaving things on their lawn saying, please take them so I don't have to throw them away. And it just doesn't make any sense. Of all the things, not a big money. I don't think it's a huge expense. You can still have it on the property, the dump property. They just want a different building. Is that it?
Oh, and staffed. There's a list of restrictions. Like I said, we can't talk about it right now because we're already over the 5 minutes.
Thank you for
for
your.
public
Could I
input, but
get a copy of that document?
yeah, it's an email correspondence. I'll have to look for it. I know that I brought it to the board already.
Well, how long?
Um,
will
so-
that take about
I'll have to take a look for it, but
Okay,
yeah.
I'm going to pursue this.
that's
So
fine. That's
Thank you.
I
fine.
think it's really.
Thank you for your time.
Thank
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you very much. Yep.
Bob Holt,
Evening, Bob.
how you doing? Yeah, I'd like to, Lauren already addressed the issue of the, shortage of help in the highway. I don't know what the answers are. Winter is coming.
Mhm.
Do we have any procedures when we do have vacancies like this? Of energizing, trying to get help? Do we do anything creative? Or do we just,
We've been
Yeah.
trying.
Absolutely. They've been doing job
We've been
fairs.
trying.
They've been doing they've gone to job fairs. They've been
yeah?
doing a lot,
Okay.
of putting it out through some of the training events.
No, I
Police
just-
department put that banner up next to McDonald's on the trailer.
Yeah, I
They-
saw
they-
that.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, no, they have been getting very creative, the department heads.
Go ahead.
Have things, we'll have things coming. Won't be pretty. Town does have a snow. Probably aware of.
Sure.
Good if not. And that snow and ice policy does have. Potential liability. Sicknesses. Fortunate, my. All works together. Creator. Currently. Difficult part of recruiting people. That's why I was
It's
not.
bottom line.
CDL license. I have a lot of people that want to come and be ground. So.
Hey, because back in my day, I was a public works employee. And we champed at the bit to plow snow. It was
Sure.
overtime, it was money.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I guess those days are
Times have
gone.
changed.
And you know what else we're fighting with is you bring your wages up $5 to get with it and the next town over says, well, we can't have that. We're gonna.
They're gonna raise it.
And we're not gonna raise it anymore. We're gonna have to, it's where it's, I mean, I think we pay a fair wage. And I think that we just gotta Well, we've got to do something even more creative to try to get some different plows that we can put people in without CDLs, because that's a
Yeah.
big hit right there.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
The young kids that we want to entice to come and plow with a CDL don't have $5,000 in their pocket to go to CDL school now. It's not. I mean, before you could take somebody and bring them down there, you put them in a truck, you train them, and then you send them to go get their CDL. You can't do that anymore.
I mean, to be. I'm about. How operate. Training. Orientation. Oh. Perform very well.
Good.
Take over time. Changes like that.
Mhm.
Travel throughout. Change. On CDL. That is a lot. Not something you're gonna take a 10-wheeler.
Yeah.
And we've changed our operation. Because they use. Road construction. Have to see.
Maintain.
And I think the good thing is actually in the long run of this and the look is we're getting closer to maybe downsizing trucks and making it so people can get in them. So that being said, maybe down the road, the trucks will get a little cheaper to buy because they're not. Hopefully,
Possibly.
I
Possibly.
went and priced one the other day and I was like, oh,
Crazy.
it's
Yeah.
adding.
And prices of everything are getting out of control.
Yeah, see, that CDL license, that's another issue. I don't think a town should have to have CDL license in with employees. We have a fire department.
You don't have to, Bob. You honestly, you don't have to have a CDL until you get in an accident.
Well, wait a minute. The fire departments don't have to have CDLs. When that was from day one, and look what they drive.
No, and you are correct, but you
Yeah,
don't have to have a CDL until one of those fire
Wow.
trucks hits another car. And then you're in trouble.
Then you're in big trouble.
Then you're in trouble. They say you're exempt from not having a CDL,
Mhm.
but then as soon as you get in an accident with another car, any good attorney's gonna say, well, he shouldn't have been behind the wheel of that truck anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He wasn't qualified to drive that truck. That falls back on a liability on the town that you really can't afford.
well, okay, that's another. issue.
Bob, your time's up. I hate to say that.
One more thing.
Yeah.
Real quick.
All right, quickly.
I wish you all a happy Thanksgiving.
Oh,
You too. Happy Thanksgiving, Bob. Thank you.
If there's nobody else,
I just want to say, this is very disturbing to me. I'm watching my heritage. I'm a native. I'm watching my heritage disappear. It's one thing, a New Hampshire Yankee, you can always say a New Hampshire Yankee. We don't drink soda. We drink tonic.
tonic.
And the other thing is, we have a birthright picking in the dump.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Carr.
Exactly.
Yep.
Two quick things, please, gentlemen.
Mhm.
Can I inquire as to where this came from? How did this come about?
It was brought into the assessing department. They recorded it and brought it to the assessing department because the assessing department handles tax maps.
Okay,
So when they record a new survey, it's disclosed to the assessing department because they manipulate and order the new tax maps.
so when we say they, we're presuming it's the Barons who brought it in and because it's recorded for them?
I believe it was I don't know personally if it was the surveying company that dropped it off or the Barons, but it was
after it gets-
indicated to me that it came from the Barons.
Right, so after it gets recorded, then it comes to the town.
Yes.
Okay, so thank you for providing me this document. I
Mhm.
appreciate that. To your point, Mr. Shea, about whether or not minutes could stand as written notice. I brought this to my big file that all of you guys have copies of on September 12th. Those are the only minutes prior to tonight's meeting that have any reflection of anything that I've brought forward to the town. On the website, the minutes prior to September 12th are errantly dated September 26th. And tonight you approved two other sets, but there's still a set in September that haven't been approved, which is September 6th. So I don't know if that's just a typo somewhere or if that's a website issue. But to your point of could it stand as written notice, because of the lag in each of those approval things, I would be hard pressed to say that yes, it could stand as that written note. Separate from that, again, thank you for the document. Thank you for the appointment time tonight. And
Thank you.
let's all have a good Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
guys.
You too. Have a nice Thanksgiving. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Jamie.
Anyone else? Seeing no one, we'll close the public input and move right to,
Can I have 5 minutes?
yes,
No.
we'll take a
We
5-minute
gotta-
recess.
We gotta go to non-pub before we recess.
Oh,
All right, let's, all
sorry.
right. Make a motion to enter into non-public
You can go in.
meeting per RSA 91-A:3
Yes.
to